Okay, now hopefully you should be seeing my slides. Give me a thumbs up if you can. Excellent. Thank you. Just let Yulia in. Okay, so welcome everybody. I've certainly met a few of you before, but there's a number of you that I've not met before, so lovely to see some new faces. I'm just going to get my screens organised and then just introduce myself very briefly. So my name's Ashley Cavers and I'm a business advisor with the Oxfordshire Local Enterprise Partnership, and I'm working with them on the Escalate programme, which I'm sure a number of you have heard about, and more on that in just a moment. But I'm also a business owner, and it's important to mention that because I'm going to be talking more about my business later as a real life example of how I've used the social business model canvas in my own business, so hopefully bringing to life the whole process a little bit more. So today is actually the first in a new series we're doing as part of Escalate called our Introducing series, where over the coming months, 6 months or so, we're going to be introducing you to a topic, different topic or tool like the business model canvas, which is aimed to help support you and your business with what you do. And we're going to have a particular focus around planning, around finance, and also around business structure. So those really fundamental building blocks of your business. So these sessions are all part of Escalate. Now, I know a number of you will have heard me introduce Escalate before, so bear with me if you are very familiar with the programme. But for those who are new to it today, just a very brief overview of what Escalate is all about. So it's a 3-year enterprise support programme. I say 3 years, but it's actually been extended by 6 months and by another 6 months. So by the time we finished, it will have been 4 years of support in the county, where we're supporting social enterprises, trading charities, and also purposeful businesses. It's fully funded by the European Regional Development Fund and managed here in Oxfordshire by OXLEP, the Local Enterprise Partnership, who I know a number of you will be familiar with, and delivered on the ground, so to speak, by OSEP. So I work alongside Grant Hayward, who many of you might know, and also Rosie Jacobs, who joins us on the call today. Rosie's going to be helping me, just checking with the chat and all the technology bits that I'm so terrible at. And she's also going to be letting us know about some of the other upcoming Escalate events later on. So how do we support the social enterprise community here in Oxfordshire? Well, we do that through webinars such as today, and also in-person workshops as well, that thankfully we're able to do again now. We also have a one-to-one support programme that's led by Grant, so you get specialist one-to-one support around your business. We've also run a number of networking events. We've had peer groups in the past as well. And a lot of these events are delivered through our partner hubs. So we have 6 social enterprise hubs that are dotted around the county, and a number of these events take place through there. We've supported, I think, coming up to almost 400 organisations since we began back in 2019. So that's charities, social enterprises, but also many more mainstream but purposeful mission-driven businesses as well. And I think one of the real achievements of the programme so far has been the fabulous community that we've managed to build up around all of these great businesses and organisations. And the thing that they all have in common is that they're all striving, all of you are striving to be a force for good with the work that you're doing. So the programme runs up until the end of next April. And if you haven't completed one already, we will be asking you to just fill out an application form. And this allows us to draw down the funding that means that we can keep sessions like this free to access for everybody. But it also enables you to then take advantage of all those other support elements in the programme. So once you've filled out that application form, you can come along to as many events, webinars, workshops as you like. Okay, so let's crack on with today's topic. Just bear with me while I do a bit more moving around so I can see a few of you. That's better. So today's topic, we're going to be looking at the social business model canvas. So how many people here have actually heard of or used a business model canvas before? Maybe just a show of hands. So a few of you, great. And some of you have maybe actually completed one before. Has anybody actually done one for their own business? I'm just trying to actually see. Can't see everybody, so I'm just going to assume that some of you have had a stab at it. So, and I should say also that there's going to be room for some questions at the end of today's hour-long session, but do feel free to speak up, just come off mute if you've got anything you want to ask, or pop a question in the chat as well. And Rosie, give me a nudge if I miss something coming up in the chat. Okay, so the Social Business Model Canvas, this is an increasingly popular planning tool used by businesses, and we're going to look at it today through the specific lens of a social impact business. And before we look at it in more detail, I think it's just worth running through why it's important to have tools like this, to have those plans and those maps in place, why they're so crucial for our business. I think when we're all so busy, it can be easy to sort of shove this sort of planning exercise to the side and see it as a bit of a chore or taking up too much time. But it's really important to acknowledge why we need to do this sort of mapping and planning in the first place. So there are so many reasons why a business plan is important, but in my book, I've just tried to summarise some of the key ones here. So first of all, it can help you properly articulate your mission and vision. In a moment, we're going to touch upon your value proposition, which is how you distill your mission and vision into a very clear business proposition. So planning can help you do that. But it also helps you understand your customers or your beneficiaries, so who they are and crucially how you reach them. A business plan can also help you define your business model. So this is how you're going to make money from your venture, and also how you're going to create that all-important positive social or environmental impact. So you may be selling something online, perhaps you're providing a service. If so, how are you providing that service? Is it face-to-face? How are you going to reach your customers? And is your model fit for purpose? A business plan is also crucially very useful for determining your financial needs. So not only what you need to actually get your business up and running in the first place, but also how much you need to be able to keep your business going, to make it financially viable. Also on the money side, if you're looking to raise money, some kind of plan will be essential. So whether that's grant funding or perhaps you're looking to get a bank loan, a business plan will be really important in being able to leverage that investment. And the business model canvas is actually a form of business plan which is increasingly accepted by many funders these days. I know Oxlap accepts them for a number of the grant programs that it runs. So it is really useful thing to have. But then the final thing on that list, I think personally, is the most important of all, because having a business plan can really help keep you on track. It gives you a clear focus with your business, which, especially when you're in the early days of running a new venture, that can be quite difficult. You can feel quite overwhelmed with all of the things on your to-do list. But having that plan, having that roadmap helps you get back to the core of your business, helps you to focus on what you're doing, why you're doing it, who you're doing it for, and crucially, how you do it. So traditionally, we'll all be familiar with business plans, and traditionally they would have been a 20-page A4 document with lots of sections and subsections and subsections. And while there is certainly still a place for that kind of business plan, I don't think it's for everybody. And the problem with those sorts of plans is that once you've written it, and it may have taken you weeks, if not months, to actually put it together, it tends to then sit in the back of a drawer or on your hard drive, and you forget about it and you don't look at it again. longer, more formal business plans certainly do still have a place, and for some kinds of funding might be required and are perhaps more appropriate for external eyes on your business. But I think especially when you're in an early stage of your business, it can be useful to have a more visual planning and mapping tool that you can constantly update, where you can see everything all on one page. And that is the whole idea behind the business model canvas. So we've got a blank example canvas there. I should say I actually put some of the canvases in the chat. I don't know, Rosie, could you see, are they in there? I just worry sometimes if I put things in the chat before everybody's joined, maybe people don't see them. All right, what I'm going to do, because I know some of these slides might come out a little bit small, so if I just quickly add, if I can, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to, why is that not letting me see the chat? There we go. Because yes, some of them come out a bit small. So if I just add them in the chat, then you can download them and look at them on your screens at home. If you've got access to a printer, you could even print off the blank one. And as we go along, we could, you can start to fill it out for your own business. I did try and find an editable version, but it was amazing how difficult that was to find. So they are PDFs at the moment. So hopefully they was in the chat now. Hopefully you can see those. Excellent. I'm also going to just, you actually need 3 screens these days, I think, to actually be able to deliver webinars. Too many boxes. Right. Great. Okay, I can see most of you now. Lovely. Okay, so this is an example of a social business model canvas. So it's all on one page with different grids, quite neat and tidy. And one way is just to have a simple page, print out, fill it out by hand, or find an interactive editable version that you can overwrite. But actually, if you've got a whiteboard in your office or a big flip chart, it can also be quite a good idea just to duplicate this there and have a larger version. And I see lots of people use this with post-it notes. So you write onto your post-it notes and then put them on the relevant grids. And that can be a far easier way of updating, moving around the various post-its, changing, making it a much more kind of interactive experience. Because the whole idea of a business model canvas is that it's a very visual, a very dynamic business model that you can regularly engage with, rather than the old-fashioned business plan, which just gets shoved to the bottom of a drawer. It should be there as a constant visual aid to your business, reminding you of all the key elements of your business and how they work together. It's not a new concept, so the canvas has been around for about 20 years or so now. It was first invented by a Swiss business theorist and academic, but it's become much more popular in recent years, I think, as part of the whole move towards a more lean, a more agile approach to business planning. And there have been lots of niche iterations as well of the canvas. So you can get a specific marketing model canvas, for example, and then of course the version that we're looking at today, which is for social enterprises, for charities. You might have a trading arm, or for businesses with a clear social or environmental purpose. And we've actually borrowed this version today from the Social Enterprise Institute, who you can look up online, and they've got lots of other useful resources around social enterprise and also around the social business model canvas. So you can see it's quite neat. It's divided into very clear segments. And what I'm going to do is just walk you through this, first of all, in very broad terms, and then also go on to show you a couple of real life worked examples to hopefully bring it off the page a bit more. I'd also say if you are part of a wider team, it's also a really good exercise when you're completing this to do it with your whole team. It's a great way to get you all focused on the fundamental aspects of your business, and also just to make sure that you're all quite literally on the same page when it comes comes to your business. So a couple of the elements just to point out that distinguish this canvas from a regular business model canvas are the very top line there. So your mission. Hopefully you can see my cursor, so when I'm sort of talking about something, I'll try and point with it. I need some nice laser pointer. I'm sure Zoom has invented something that I've not discovered yet, but cursor will have to do today. So yes, your mission, that's all social impact businesses have to have a mission about how you see your business and its role in changing the world in a positive way. So this is where you capture this, because all of the other activity in your business has to service ultimately that original mission. So it's really important from the outset to be clear about what that mission is. Then next, if you go to the middle section of the canvas, so the middle column all about value, you have this section here, which is around your value proposition. Now, is everybody clear on what a value proposition is? Is that something that you've come across before? Is that something that you've worked on in your business? Maybe just a quick show of hands, or pop something in the chat, or shake your head. So no, there's a few of you that haven't looked at value proposition. Okay, well, to be honest, we could spend a whole webinar just talking about value propositions, but just to go over it briefly now, it's very similar to your mission in many ways, but it's a slightly more boiled down and pragmatic version of that. And we'll see a couple of examples in a minute. But basically, your value proposition is looking at what is the problem that you're trying to solve and what is the solution that you are bringing to that problem. So what is the value of your venture? You know, what is the value that you are bringing to the table? And as I said, we'll look at a couple of examples in a moment that might help with that. Then the social innovation box, just above the value proposition, just takes that thinking a step further. So what is the innovation that you bring as a business? So what makes your solution to the social or environmental problem that you're trying to fix more effective than others that are out there already? So make sure you start with just encapsulating your mission at the top, then move to the value section. And then I think it works best to move to the right-hand side of the canvas and look in a bit more detail at your market. So when you're talking about your market, that of course are your customers. So who are they? And also how are they going to benefit from your product or service? So remember, you might have more than one customer segment. So you might be providing a service or a product that is both for B2C and for B2B. So if that's the case, then make sure you capture that there in the customer relationships. And just to note as well here, so I use the word customer as kind of a generic catch-all term. I do appreciate that we might have some charities and social enterprises in the room where customer might not feel like quite the right terminology to use. So see customer as interchangeable with the word beneficiaries. Basically, we're referring here by whoever it is that is using, buying, interacting or benefiting from your product or service. So we'll just use customer as a shorthand, but it applies to all. And then once you've understood who your customers are, and clarified how they're going to benefit from your product or service, it's important to capture what channels you're going to use in order to reach those customers. So by channels, we're looking at everything from the social media that you use. Are you using Instagram? Are you using LinkedIn? Are you running classes or workshops to reach your customers? Are you selling through your website? There's a long list that you could put into channels, but make sure you put in there your priority ones and the ones that you know you need to use in order to reach your customers. We could all go on and put a never-ending list of ways to reach our customers, but focus on the ones that you know are going to deliver the best returns. And we're going to provide some examples of these in a minute when we look at a couple of other real-life business examples. Then on the other side of the canvas, so once you've looked at market, we move over to implementation. So implementation, we're looking at key allies. So by key allies, these are your partners, your key partners that you need to make sure that your idea is going to work. So these could be funders, for example, or they could be suppliers to your business. Basically, anybody that's going to help influence your success and also help you maximize your impact. So alongside key allies, it's really important to think about the key resources that you need in your business as well. So what resources do you have in place already to make this business work? And what do you still need? So these could be human resources, technical resources, or it could be the physical space that you need to operate from. Perhaps do you use volunteers in order for your idea, your enterprise to work, in which case that is a key human resource that you need. And then under resources, look at your key activities in your business. So are you making things? Do you need a manufacturing element to your business, or are you buying things from other manufacturers, from other people? Are you actively selling those products? Who's doing the advertising and the marketing in your business? We all need to do that, but sometimes you might outsource it, sometimes you'll do it in-house. What about the key financial aspects of your business? Who's going to be handling the money? It's really important. Some of this might sound obvious and you might think you have it all in hand, but by actually laying it all down in black and white, it's a really valuable way of seeing all of those different cogs in the machine that is your business or organization. Then finally, moving down to the bottom of the grid, we have a section on finances. So this really gets to the nub of the viability of your business. So your revenue streams, first and foremost, are really how the lifeblood of your business. So how are you going to make money? So many social enterprises will have multiple revenue streams. So you could be selling a product or a service, but you might also have grant funding as an important part of your business. So that should be captured there under revenue. You may do a lot of fundraising. You may rely on donations or subscriptions. Make sure that's captured there as well. A blended revenue model is very common these days, especially in the social enterprise sector. Then after revenue streams, you need to look at the cost of your delivery, the cost of running your business. So how much is it going to cost, not just to set it up and get it going, but to keep it going? So be very clear about all of those ongoing costs, and will you be making enough revenue to be able to deliver those costs, to cover those costs? So another aspect that does set this apart from a more traditional business model canvas is then going back into the centre and this section on community reinvestment. So that is all about what you're going to be doing with the profits that you make, the surplus that you make from your business. So how are you going to reinvest that money, either back into the business so that you can deliver more services, benefit more people, reach a wider audience, or how much of that is directly going to go to your community, to your audience, to benefit them more directly. And again, we'll look at some examples of that in a minute. So I realise that's a very kind of quick skip through the various sections just to give you a bit of an introduction, and with a blank page there in front of you it can be a bit difficult to take in, but has anybody got any initial questions on any of those sections yet? We will, as I said, we're going to go through some practical examples in a minute, but just if anybody just has any questions so far, then just shout out or pop something in the chat. No, otherwise we will go on and look at some examples which will hopefully just make it a little bit easier to bring everything to life. So the next business model canvas I'm going to share is actually going to be for my business. So very briefly to introduce my business, I'm one of the founders of the Wonky Food Company, and we sell relishes made from imperfect and surplus fruit and veg, so helping to tackle the huge environmental and social problem of food waste. So we sell our jars of relish through the co-op. We're also on Ocado, but we also sell through a lot of local delis and farm shops and other independent retailers in Oxfordshire and also further afield in the UK. So we have done a business model canvas. In fact, we've done quite a few iterations over the years. And actually, we did have it up on a whiteboard in our office. We had a really big version that we could all refer to. But we recently moved offices and the board got wiped in the journey. So that is on my to-do list to reinstate the whiteboard. So I'm going to take you through this as an example. But be thinking about your business, have that blank canvas in front of you as we go through that, and start scribbling down some notes and some thoughts about how you would complete your social business model canvas. So remember I said we should all start with the mission. So our mission is to reduce food waste and encourage more responsible food consumption by creating products using food surplus. So I'm already reading that back to myself and thinking, oh, crikey, actually that needs a little bit of tweaking. That's not quite right. We've evolved slightly and I need to incorporate a bit more of our educational aims that we're working on at the moment in the business. And actually, I think just that reflection underlines the point of a business model canvas. If you can see this almost as the front page of your business, so that the headlines, if you like, and just like with the news, those headlines will change. They're always changing, and when one headline changes, then that impacts on the rest of the story. So you have to make sure that you're looking at how all of those elements join up. So if your mission evolves and changes, how does your strategy when it comes to your marketing or your implementation or your financial structure change? So that is our mission at the top there. Then remember I said sort of start really at the middle and work out. So then looking at the value section. So here's an example of our value proposition. So ours reads, we reduce food waste and raise consumer awareness about the problem by making great tasting products that use imperfect and surplus produce. Now, the thing to say about a value proposition is that it doesn't have to be snappy or sexy. This is not your marketing tagline. It's not even your mission statement, which does need to be a bit punchier. Your value proposition is more of an internal statement, but one that really should be at the heart of your business model. So, because without that, without having a clear sense of what you are trying to achieve and how you're going to achieve it, then you can't really have clarity around the other elements. So really important to start with that value proposition. So it could be a statement in the form of a paragraph like that. We help X by doing Y, achieve Z. If you want to look at it as a bit of a formula, or some people will just write key bullets. We'll see an example a little bit later where the value proposition is really just captured in a series of short bullets rather than a paragraph. But I personally quite like pulling it together into a statement of intent, really. So I think that makes it a bit more meaningful than just a list of bullets. So the grid just above value proposition then is the social innovation section. And that's where you're prompted to think about how you're going to apply new messages, new methods, new ideas or products to solve the problem that you're trying to tackle. So in Wonky, we've been trying to look at this in a bit more detail recently. So when it comes to our NPD, our new product development, we're trying to look at how we introduce new products that identify and tackle different food waste streams. So at the moment we're working with mainly fruit and veg, but there could be other areas where there's a real waste problem that we can look at, maybe areas that other businesses are not tackling at the moment. So that's one area that we can innovate and improve. We're also looking at a bit of technology around our sort of traceability. So how we capture and communicate the provenance, the traceability of the produce that we use. So this could be using QR codes or codes on our jars to be able to direct customers to more information about where we've sourced our produce and the farmers that we're working with. So that's a way that we can perhaps look at technology to innovate and drive our business forward, but also increase the impact that we can have. And on that impact, we're also looking at how we can cast our net a bit wider. So not just working with the wasted fruit and veg, but working on the education piece around food waste. So how can we work more closely with community groups and schools to really be able to drive home that message around food waste? Because ultimately, 70% of food waste happens in the home, in our fridges. So there's only so much that we as a small business can do selling our relishes to be able to impact on that side of the food waste problem. But we could use our brand to be able to communicate, raise awareness, share advice with our consumers that will hopefully have that secondary impact of reducing food waste in other areas such as the home. So really, once you understand the value of what you can bring, whether that's value that you're bringing already in your business, or it's the potential value, things that you could do in the future in your business. Once you've established that, the next step is understanding who you're trying to reach and influence or help with your business. So that's when we move across to the market side of the canvas. So for us, our customers are conscious consumers, so consumers who care about the environment, who care about the impact of food waste. But because we also have a B2B element to our business, so we don't just sell to end consumers, but we also work with pubs and restaurants and cafes who use catering tubs of our relishes. So the other audience, our other customer, crucial customer, are those responsible retailers and the hospitality venues who we rely on to use our product, to resell our product, to put our product on their shelves. Now, if you were doing a lengthier, more traditional business plan, this is certainly one of those areas where you would develop your knowledge around your customer base and your customer relationships in much more detail. You'd be developing whole personas for your customers. This might be something that you've done already, where you actually get to know their personalities, you understand where they shop, what they like, what they don't like. But again, this is kind of the front, just the sort of headline around your customers. And there's much more. You could do a whole separate marketing strategy. And in fact, Rosie will talk a little bit about it later, but we've got our marketing with a mission series that's kicking off tomorrow, in fact, where Rosie and Annabelle and some other very clever marketing people can take you through some of those crucial marketing strategies in a bit more depth. For the purposes of the canvas, this is just somewhere where you can capture in a snapshot who those key customers are, so you don't forget them. Then when it comes to consumer benefits, so just that whole box below, it's about really just understanding how your customer, your consumer, your beneficiary is going to benefit from what you are doing. So in our case, our customers, hopefully the benefit to them is that they see they can do their little bit by helping to tackle food waste in a problem which can feel very overwhelming and huge, and how can we possibly as individuals tackle it. So hopefully we give them a very sort of tiny step, which hopefully leads to bigger steps to be able to make a difference. It hopefully gives them more insight through some of the other work and messaging and communication that we do. Hopefully gives them a better insight into the food chain and how complicated that can be, and how it's important that we all ask questions about where our food comes from. And then also, not to forget, hopefully they benefit from having a nice jar of relish, which is versatile, could be used as an ingredient, is vegan, gluten-free, all the rest of it. Sorry, I do sound like I'm doing an advert for my product here, which is certainly not what I'm meaning to do, but just giving you an example of the sorts of questions and areas that we constantly as a business have to be thinking about, and the questions we have to be asking ourselves. And again, actually, as I'm reading this now, I'm seeing other benefits that I haven't captured there under that section. So, for example, how reducing food waste actually reduces carbon emissions, leading to a healthier planet. So that's a key benefit that we need to get better at communicating to our customers. So once you're clear on who your customers are and how they're benefiting, the next section to look at is here, your channels, how you're going to reach those customers. So a few examples there are, most of us will have a website for our business. You may or may not be selling your services or your products through your website. Social media is a crucial part of your sales and marketing strategy. Remember, you don't have to be using all social media channels. Not everybody will need to use LinkedIn, but if you're a B2B business, that's obviously going to be more useful. If you have a product based business, then something like Instagram is going to be crucial for you, a very visual channel in which to let people know about your product. Again, I'm not going to go into a masterclass on social media here because it's such a huge subject. And again, what we're trying to do here is a snapshot, just capturing some of those key channels. So digital advertising is another important channel. Selling our products through our retailers, who have those actual physical bricks and mortar shops on the high street. That's hugely important. We also sell some of our products through third-party platforms. And then, of course, turning up at festivals and events. We were at a great festival at the weekend, going to another one this weekend. That's a really important way of us reaching our customers. And finally, there on our list, educational events and activities as well. So again, I'm looking at that list and I'm already doing a bit of a mental check about, digital advertising. That's definitely something that we've identified as an important way of reaching customers. But you know what? We're not doing enough of it at the moment. We haven't allocated enough budget. I need to go revisit that. I need to do more. Similarly, the last one on the list there, educational events and activities, they fell sadly by the wayside a bit during the pandemic. And they're only just sort of coming back on board now. So again, I need to bump that up my priority list. So you can hopefully see already how the business model canvas can be a great way of just checking in on your business at regular intervals and looking at your plan. Are you doing what you said you were going to do at the outset of your business? What else do you need to be able to do to go back and deliver on that mission? Are there more bits you need to add to this list of channels? Do you need a wider customer base in order to be able to create a bigger impact in order to go back and achieve that mission? So I think this is the real power, the real value of a social business model canvas. It's that, again, that snapshot, those key headlines that can hold you to account and keep you just checking in on your business. And you're much more likely to be able to do that with a simple visual one-page depiction of your business like this than you are with a 50-page A4 document. Okay, so after you've considered your market, then it's time to go over to the left-hand side of the canvas and look at how you are going to implement. So when it comes to your key allies, remember those are your partners or your stakeholders who you need to work with to make sure your business happens and also to achieve maximum impact. Now, these tend to be external rather than internal. So in our case, it's the farmers wanting to sell more fruit and veg. It's also those wholesalers and supermarkets who are committed to selling more wonky fruit and veg and helping to reduce food waste. It's also those sustainability focused retailers as well who we rely on to sell our products. But for you, they could be the funders, they could be suppliers. Just think of anybody who's going to help influence your success and maximise your impact. Then moving across to key resources. So these are resources you rely on to carry out your work. As I said earlier, could be human, could be technological, could be physical. So in our case, it's the team, it's us. We couldn't do it without us working hard. But it's also our manufacturing partners. It took us a long time to find the right manufacturing partner. Without that, there's no way we could function as a business. So that is a critical, mission critical resource that we need to constantly be looking at and making sure is working to its full potential. And also working capital. You can't run a business without the money. So we need to make sure we've always got enough cash flow to keep the business running. And premises as well. Not all of you will need premises, but some of you might. You might need warehousing, you might need meeting space. So really important to consider that at the outset of your business. Key activities. So again, this might sound really obvious, but it's important to kind of capture there in one snapshot all of those key activities in your business. So for us, it's sourcing the food surplus, the ingredients, it's the manufacturing that takes place, it's all the sales and marketing to be able to reach the consumer. And then critically, it's having one eye on the future as well. What can we do next? What new products can we bring to the market? Then moving down to the final section and looking at our various revenue streams. So you can see, retail sales of the relishes, obviously the most obvious source of income. But we also have that secondary market, food service, where we're selling B2B to those pubs and restaurants who want to use our relishes. And then we also make some money through white labelling for other businesses, and then have a very small amount of grant income. So a blended mix there of different revenue streams. But again, we've recently, as a team, revisited our business model canvas, and we realised that we'd forgotten a bit about the white label aspect, and it was a bit of a light bulb moment, like, oh, we're not doing enough there. We need to be reaching out and trying to find some more opportunities for our white labelling. So again, just another example of how the canvas acted as a really useful sort of aid memoir for us, just to keep us back on track. So that's looking at one example. I'm just checking time though. So yeah, we've got about 15 minutes left. I do have one more example, which I'm not going to go through in such detail, because obviously I don't know their business in as much detail, but it's just good for you, I think, to see another example and one that you can look at in more detail in your own time. We will be sharing these slides afterwards, so you'll have this to go back to. So I don't know how many of you have heard of Tom Shoes, a far bigger company than little old Wonky, but it's a US company. It's a B Corp, but they sell internationally and turn over multi-millions of dollars, and they're mainly online, but also sell via other shoe retailers as well. And one of the key things about Tom Shoes is that they were one of the first to pioneer a buy one, give one concept behind their social mission, and they also give away a significant portion of their profits to fund grassroots community organisations, particularly those working in the mental health area. So, worth jumping on their website and having a look at them in more detail. So as I said, I won't go through this in more detail, but there's just a couple of sections that are useful to point out. So for example, looking at their value proposition. So instead of writing that paragraph, that statement of intent, they've just captured their value in a series of bullet points. If you find that an easier way, if you're struggling a bit to articulate what you do into a single statement, then it's fine just to use bullets, as long as you are clearly capturing that value somehow at the heart of your business model. And then I also thought the key allies section on this one was quite interesting, as an example. So they've of course got their suppliers, they've got their retailers on there as the obvious and important ones, but less obvious are the other two examples. So they work with a lot of humanitarian organisations globally who collaborate with them on social programmes, which gives them more reach, gives them more impact, gives them more clout. So that may well be an important route for some of you as well with your work, to look at who you can collaborate with, to pair up with, to increase the impact that you can deliver. And also key allies as well include volunteers. So you could put volunteers and resources, but as long as it's captured somewhere here under implementation. So again, there may be some of you who rely heavily on volunteers, so you need to make sure that that's captured as well in your business planning. So I think I won't go through Tom's shoes in any more detail, but it'd be good just to kind of check back in with all of you now, and just see, just after that quick sort of whistle stop run through a business model canvas and a couple of examples there, who sees the value, the potential value in doing a business model canvas for your own business? Can you kind of see the relevance? Either just sort of raise a hand or pop something in the chat, thumbs up, great, okay. Because you've got to, for it to be a valuable exercise, you've kind of got to see the, the potential of it and how it can help your business. And the beauty of a business model canvas is that it really shouldn't take you too long. I think one of the problems with a traditional business plan is that it becomes such an onerous exercise. You start it, you shelve it, you come back to it a couple of months later, you avoid all the tricky bits that you don't want to do, and it doesn't really then serve any purpose in driving you forward and really helping your business. So a business model canvas should be more like a brainstorming session, and as I said earlier, a really valuable one to do with other people in your team. Or if you're a solo entrepreneur and you don't have a team around you, maybe you're just starting out, maybe you're not even trading yet, then why not try and get some trusted people around you? You might have some peers or mentors or advisors, or even just some good friends who could sit with you and do a bit of a brainstorm, and perhaps they might see some areas and perhaps part of your value proposition or different ways in which you could generate revenue that you might have overlooked and not thought about before. I do think doing a business model canvas works particularly well for startup or early stage businesses, but that's not to say if you're an established, larger scaling business that this isn't a useful exercise as well. I've been into plenty huge offices, visited multinational businesses where I've seen the big whiteboard and the post-its all over the place. So, it's definitely a great way of checking back in with your business and making sure that you're keeping on track, and sort of testing the waters of where you are with your business at the moment, and which of those various elements that all affect each other, which might need a bit of tweaking, a bit more work, a bit more attention, a bit more love. Okay, well, I'm going to stop talking there because I've just about lost my voice, and just throw over Rosie. I can't see the chat at the moment because I'm useless and can't open up my chat box, so I don't know if anybody has popped anything in there yet.
No, so Julia was just asking what white label meant. Oh
yes,
we're just having a bit of a chat about that and just sharing some examples of what that might mean. So I don't know whether you have any examples from Wonky that you can share in this forum.
Maybe not ones I can share at the moment, but just as so we've had other relish companies, or we had a cheese business, for example, who made their own line of relishes, and they approached us because they really liked our sustainability message and what we were doing with surplus and imperfect fruit and veg. So they wanted us to do a relish for them, which would have had their labelling on, so no one would have known we made it. but actually that's still another useful revenue stream for us. And we're actually talking to a couple of quite large businesses at the moment. Haven't yet done the deal, but it would be amazing if it does come off. And even though that won't be us sort of sharing or expanding our brand profile, it's a really important behind the scenes alternate revenue stream, which then helps us to do all the lovely brand building stuff and make more of our own products and grow the business and get more people working with us. So yeah, white labeling is often something, I mean, obviously it applies more to product businesses than service businesses in the room, but it can be a forgotten area of revenue. And it's another way of increasing your impact. If we get other businesses selling wonky fruit and veg, even if it's not under our name, then we're managing to use more surplus fruit and veg and managing to make a bigger dent into the food waste problem. So that's another great way of increasing our impact.
Wendy shares a good example of like Kellogg's selling cornflakes to Sainsbury's, and quite a lot of own brand supermarket food is done through brands like that. So that happens quite a lot in that kind of bigger supply chain.
It does. Yeah.
So there's been a question from Philida, who has asked just a bit about your background, Ashley, and how you got into Wonky and setting up Wonky originally.
Oh gosh, okay, I'll do the short version. So my background broadly is actually in journalism and the media. Got a bit burnt out, fed up of that, working with too many people with too many egos, and I really enjoyed meeting businesses. Through some of the work that I did, I interviewed and met entrepreneurs, asked them about their challenges, secrets of their success. And after I did that for a while, I kept coming out of the room thinking, do you know what? They're not that special. They're quite normal people. They've just come up with an idea and they've researched it really well, they've planned it really well, and they've implemented and executed really well. And I thought, if they can do it, I can do it. So I was inspired by seeing other people and their businesses, but I always knew I wanted to work in the kind of the impact sector, whether that's sort of social or environmental impact. I had another business before Wonky, which was sort of selling recycled stationery and materials way before other people were doing it. So it didn't, necessarily do as well as it could have done. But that's always been really important to me. And I just love working in business, whether it's on my own business or working with other people, meeting other people with their great business ideas and helping to support them along the way, because I genuinely think business is one of the most effective ways in which we can implement change in the world. So yeah, there you go, there's the potted version.
Brilliant. So I think that's it in terms of questions, unless anybody has anything.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining everybody. I know Rosie's going to run through a few. I'll just go on to the last slide I've got here, and then I'll stop sharing for a moment. So that's just a bit more information if you would like to find out more about the Escalate programme. If you'd like to sign up, get involved in some of the great events that we've got planned before it finishes next April, then we'd love you to do that. It's probably also worth saying that we also have an Escalate mailing list and also a LinkedIn community page as well, which is worth joining. And we can follow up. Rosie, we usually send out a follow-up email, don't we, where we can send links to all of those things.
I'll send an email later today just with all of those links, so you've got them, and some information about some of the events that we've got coming up. So we've got a really packed program of events over the next few months, so I will send links to all of them because I won't go into detail here, but tomorrow is we kick off our marketing with a mission series. So it's a series of 5 workshops, and I know Alison, you've done some before, but a great kind of dive into elements of marketing with that kind of focus on impact and mission, rather than just kind of very general business marketing. So tomorrow we're looking at your purpose, so thinking about your mission and how that applies to your your customers and the kind of content and messaging that you're putting out. The one in December is about marketing, excuse me, marketing and impact. So thinking about what impact you want to have in your business, how you communicate that to your customers and how you measure that. And then the one in January is about community building. So thinking about who your customer is, to niche or not to niche is the question. Yeah, so it's a really, really good one for kind of thinking about not just your customers, but also your stakeholders. So so those allies that Ashley was talking about in their business model canvas. But yes, I will pop that all in an email, so you don't have to remember that now. And if you've got any questions or anything kind of pops into your head after this session, you'll have my email, so you can just get in touch with me. But yeah, great to see you today.
Yeah, and good luck working on your canvases. Hope it goes well. All right, good to see you all.